One thing guys, we're back with a brand new video. Today's video we'll be talking about the Collingwood Football Club and how they can turn their future around, because right now a lot of people have written them off and they reckon they still want to play finals, and it's not totally out of the picture this year, but it's very unlikely at this stage that they will. So you can almost write them off for this year, but in the future their future looks very bright, and this is not, the media is not showing Collingwood fans and the media in general. So I'll be talking about ways they could fix Collingwood in the near future and how it's not all doom and gloom for Collingwood in the future. So before we do get into this video, make sure to drop a like and a subscribe if you want more videos like this. I've been making just, talking about AFL videos. This is what the channel was meant to be when I first made it. It kind of went, diverse. I made some other content and I still will be making that content, but I thought I'll actually start talking about the AFL season when it is going, and then I'll go back to other type of content whenever I feel like it. But right now I've been loving making sit down talking videos. So if you like that, make sure to drop a like and a subscribe, and let's get straight into it. So the first thing Collingwood must do is play Darcy Moore as a defender. I don't even know how this is a question. He was almost leading the MVP race in the first 3 rounds of the season as a centre half back, and yeah, it was good to make a change in that West Coast game to try something new. But what we've realised ever since that happened is that Darcy Moore playing forward has no real impact. He might get a goal here or there, but that is not the problem with Collingwood right now. It's their kicks inside 50, which is really ruining them. Their only one win of the season has been against Carlton, and that's when they tore them apart by finding Jamie Elliott and Jordan De Goey coming off leads, flying through packs and all that stuff. Now, losing Jane Stevenson has really made a bigger impact than people probably thought, because, the connection between Jane Stevenson to go in the forward line was something else. It was so good. Big reason why they actually played finals in 2018 and almost won at the grand final. So they need to play Darcy Moore as a defender, because he is not the solution up forward, and he helps them so much down back, and he's having no impact on the game so far. Now, the next question that's been asked is, should Nathan Buckley actually be sacked? I personally don't reckon that they should, because I don't think he's a problem. And if they actually did win the flag in 2018, this would be completely off the table right now, because you don't sack a premiership coach. So I feel like that they should allow him to go through this little bit of a rebuild stage, because I feel like they have the list to do, more like a Melbourne report in 2019. Get some young talents in the draft, push back up. They're already guaranteed the #1 pick, so they have the young talent to come in. They have some great players in their team already, like the Sidebottoms, the Pendleburys, that are getting a bit older now, taking a bit step back, but they're still above average AFL players. And you got the stars in Grundy, Darcy Moore, Jordan De Goey. They can really lead this team for the future, and not to mention Taylor Adams, which was up there for the Brownlow this year. You would have to think if he didn't actually get injured. So, but if they do actually want to go down that path, they could go what they've done in the past and go for the more experienced coach. Like Alistair Clarkson is probably the #1 target they'll try to go for, and try to nab him off Hawthorn. Or they can go someone that I'm a big fan of their coaching, which is Ross Lyon. I feel like he drills players. He never loses respect within the players. They respect him highly. Both when he was at St Kilda and Fremantle, both the players absolutely love Ross Lyon, and he was hard as possible on them, and it worked. Then they always had, the pressure, the defensive acts, and I feel like he could really help if they want to choose to go straight back up the ladder. But if they're going for a rebuild, there's a lot of coaches in there they coached before that you could try to nab. For example, some assistant coaches or something like that. But Robert Harvey seems the #1 candidate probably for the job. You would have to think. Now, he's never coached, but he's been assistant coach for about 7 or 8 years now at Collingwood. So you'd have to think that he'd be a perfect candidate for the Collingwood job if they did, like how Brett Ratton and David Teague recently got their job as that. So they need someone to fill their assistant coaching job, or I'm not quite sure what the coach is called, but it's like a forward line or a midfield connection coach, like what Justin Longmuir was doing. He's how they're trying to turn their kicking efficiency around, because right now, if you've been watching Collingwood games, they just seem to bomb it and never actually hits their own teammate. It's making it so hard to go inside 50, because every time they go inside 50, it seems like they're just hitting the defenders more than they're hitting their forwards, which is not too great. And when Justin Longmuir first came to the club, you could see how much he changed it around and got them to really get a connection between the forward line and the midfield. So they need to get a coach that can help with that, because right now they're back to their 2017, 2016 habits, and this is not how they made the grand final. And next up is they're missing a bit of speed through the midfield. When we look at their midfield mix, they have Jack Crisp, but there does have a little bit of speed running through there. Josh Dacos, he's not the fastest player, but he does have a bit of acceleration in his step. And then you look at someone of the altitude of Taylor Adams. He's more of a grunt player. He's not too fast of a player. He's probably a bit above average, but he doesn't have enough speed in the midfield. And then you got Pendlebury, who's pretty slow, even though he does seem like time shows down, but I feel like it's a bit slow for the midfield. Sidebottom's a bit slow now. And Jordan Ngoa, he is probably the same as the Dacos. Jamie Elliott's pretty above average with his speed. But they need a speedy midfielder that can break out of packs really well, because Jordan Ngoa is probably the number one guy that can go in there that can have that breakaway speed. But they don't need a superstar, because if you look off the top of my head at someone like a Zach Jones that came as a wingman / halfback that was ultra speedy, came into a slow St Kilda midfield and kind of turned their midfield around because he just has that breakaway speed. So they don't need to get a superstar, and they actually have the lenience to go and get someone like a Zach Jones prototype from another club. I don't have any on the top of my head, but you could go and steal someone from another club that's probably out of luck, or not as recognised in the AFL world as a midfielder. Bring him in, and he can do the job like that. And next up, they need to bring in a bit of ball users to the club. Now, this is what the Trelaw deals are actually done for them, that now they can actually have the leniency to go out and actually get some players they've been looking at that could actually help their team. So you could look at going and get some other great ball users that probably aren't getting a game, or they could go into the draft and get some great ball users. They already have Nick Dacos, but that will be a really good get if they can get someone like that into the club in the off-season. And next up, I said that Pendlebury may need to move to a half-back flank, simply because they want to have this new exciting midfield with breakaway speed, toughness, and all that stuff. I feel like Pendlebury, don't take this as a hatred towards Pendlebury. I reckon he's probably one of my favourite players in the competition, but I feel like that he's getting a bit slow for the midfield. He's getting exposed for the defensive acts in the midfield, and they're almost targeting him sometimes if you look. But if they took him to a half-back flank, he's a great marker of the football. He actually started his career as a half-forward, so he could also make the move down there. But I feel like a half-back, he could kind of set up the play, break the lines, and even if you want to set him on a wing or something, because he's such a great ball user, that's kind of what they're missing right now. So they can almost use him as a wingman. Every time they mark it, he comes past their handball receives, he can set up, he can break lines with his kicking, great kicking, and great time with the ball. He's great decision making. So that's all the strengths for a halfback flanker. So I feel like that'll be a great move for them to do. And then they get Finley McRae more opportunities in the midfield if they decide to use that. Next up, I said that they need to go back to the forward structure and formula that worked in 2018. Now, some reason they've gone back to the long bombs and all this stuff, but I feel like how they really cut teams up is their ability to have these hybrid forwards like Will Hoskin-Elliott. I don't know why they've decided to run Will Hoskin-Elliott on a wing and more up the ground. I reckon Will Hoskin-Elliott was so dangerous when he was almost like a go role, like when he was one out in the square. He could burn people with space and pace if they put it out in front of him. His ability, he's so creative around goals. And then they have a DeGoey that can do that. They had Stevens in the past, and that's why it worked so well. Because they looked like they had so much space, they kind of almost cleared the forward line, and then had a hybrid fast forward that has the ability to mark the ball, but also use it on the ground level to do it. But now it seems like they're trying to bomb it to Mason Cox and Darcy Cameron and Brody Myercheck and just hope that it works. But they need to utilise Will Hoskin-Elliott, because he's gone so backwards, and a lot of people want to blame it on his form, but I'm just looking about how they're using him now. They're using him up the ground. They should be using him as a deep forward, kind of rotation with Elliott has that capability to be a deep forward. You have De Goey that has the capability of doing that deep forward role, and they can just use this forward structure that works so well. Look for leads in targets, because that's how they actually cut up Carlton, by doing these leads like of De Goey and these small forwards, and not always kicking it to the big fellas that they know they have up forward, which I feel like could very, very help them to actually go back to winning football matches in the future. And next to that, I said that having De Goey and Jamie Elliott rotate from midfield to a deep forward, never have them both in the same forward line. Plus, it means to have a point of difference and X factor in the midfield. Right now, the midfield's a bit bland. You would have to say they have some, big bodies in there like Braden Sire. They have Pendlebury, but when you have someone like, actually, I do want to see Josh Takos be a full-time midfielder in the future. He's kind of stuck on a wing to a forward role, but chuck him in the guts. He's got a bit more opportunities of late since there's been a few injuries in the midfield, but that needs to happen. But I love that they should never have Elliott and De Goey in the same forward line. Obviously when the ball's swinging around the ground, you can push them forward and have them both lead out. But at the starting bounce, or the bounce after a goal, you should always have either one of De Goey or Elliott in the midfield, and then have the other one stuck in the forward line. I feel like that would help them so much around their structure around the ground. But the one thing I want to say is that the talent is still there. Like, their list on paper is very elite. They have a full healthy list. Now, sadly, or this is a bit different from other years, but they haven't had many injuries this year, Collingwood. But the thing that's really killed them is that the injuries they have got this season have all been to their big name players and probably their better players, like Jeremy Howe, Jamie Elliott, and Taylor Adams have been their three major injuries this year. But they haven't had too many injuries apart from that this year, which is kind of good and a bad thing. You would love if they didn't have too many injuries, but it wasn't their star players. But the 2020 off-season could work out great in the long run, because it frees up money and be able to bring young talent to the football club. This could be a season like a Melbourne and Port had in 2019. When Melbourne, they went and got out and got Cozzy Pickett, Luke Jackson, Trent Rivers, and look where they are now. And then Port got Dersma, Rovesy, and Butters, and they pushed back up the ladder after having a down year. So that's all they need to do. They just get some young talent. They already guaranteed the best player in next year's draft, which already looks like an absolute superstar. But Collingwood have the ability to push for finals next year if they have a big off-season, and they're already going to the number one pick. So they're already going to have some young, great talent coming through. And the last thing I have to say for all Collingwood fans, it's not all doom and gloom like the media is saying. Now, you might be in a bad spot, you might look at the record, you've only won one game for the year, but that's all not doom and gloom. You said take in the positives, get in the young talent, and I thought this would be a great video to make just to show some hope for some Collingwood fans that might be feeling a bit down about how their season's going and is fully annoyed with the football club. Thanks for watching, guys. Make sure to drop a like and a video, and thanks for watching.